Right.
So we're laying there in the bushes, Mike and I. Finally, it rolls around 3 a.m. And I said, okay, I'm on. I jump the fence and I go and open the car door to Bagenwald's car. And as soon as I do that, all hell broke loose. You start hearing a lot of screaming, yelling. The lights went on in the patrol car out the front of the house, flashing lights everywhere. And police are running up the driveway screaming, hold it, hot, hold it, hold, right there, get down on the ground. I hit the ground, they're screaming and yelling. And I look back and I start to see some lights go on in the house. And everybody keeps yelling. They came up and they start to handcuff me. And with that, I look back and I see Richard Biegenwald and his wife are at the door. They're inside the screen door, but they had the inner door open. And one of the cops is talking to Biegenwald saying, yeah, this guy was busting into your car. He's got your door open. And he said, this guy says he knows you. Do you know him? And Biegenwald said, arrest him. Just arrest the guy, you know? And with that, I lean back and I go, hey, Richie. I said, you know me. It's me, Ken. And he he takes a step out of the door and he says, yeah, he's okay. And with that, boom, everybody grabbed a hold of the guy. They handcuffed him and they run him down the driveway to a patrol car. And they also get his wife and handcuffed her, take her down too. Fitzgerald didn't budge from his apartment. The back of this apartment house was like a kind of an L shape, and Bagenwald was like here, and Fitzgerald was here. And it may be that he saw us, what was going on, because he wouldn't answer the door. And finally, Billy Lucia went over. He started pounding on the door, and Fitzgerald's girlfriend comes over. She opens the door, and Billy said, "We're looking for Darren." And she said, he's not here, he's out. We said, well, we're coming in. No, no, you're not coming in. Well, we're coming in, we got a warrant. So in we go. We all get inside. And at this point, Richard Biegenwald's in custody. We just have to look for Fitzgerald. Um, and we started doing a search. We split up in two teams. One took Biegenwald's apartment, one took Fitzgerald's apartment. And we start looking all around, and we tore the place apart. We had the information that there was supposed to be a hidden room, but we didn't know if it was Bagenwald's apartment, if it was in Fitzgerald's apartment, or if it was in one of the upstairs apartments. We had no idea where this was. So we're searching everywhere. We're ripping ceiling tiles out, going through closets. We were all over the place. We were searching for an hour, a whole hour, and we never found it. And so pretty much the effort went towards finding evidence. Uh, we're searching everywhere. We found, I believe it was Kevin Quinn found a gun that was used to kill Miss Leskowitz under Fitzgerald's bed. The ammo for the gun was found in Bagenwald's apartment, so it tied them all together. But the actual gun that killed her was found in Fitzgerald's apartment under the bed. And while Kevin was logging and tagging evidence, I sat down on the bed. And like I said, this is an hour we've been in this apartment. And I sat down on the bed, and there's a pair of pants on the floor. I pick up the pants. I'm going through the pants. I found the wallet. And I'm looking through the wallet, and it's Darren Fitzgerald's wallet. Lance Roller comes over to me, one of the ocean detectives. He goes, what do you think? I said, I don't think he went out at 3 o'clock in the morning and didn't take his wallet with him. I mean, he's got to be here somewhere. So off we go again around the room. I get to one part of the room, and there's this mirror on the wall. It's a full-length mirror. And it was right against the wall. And I'm trying to figure out how the hell this comes off the wall. And yanking and tugging. It's not coming off. So while I'm doing this, Lance now comes over. He goes, "What's the matter?" I said, "I can't get this mirror off the wall." So he starts tugging with me. We're both pulling and tugging. The mirror is not moving. And then Kevin, Quinn, a couple of guys come over. Now we're all tugging. So there's going to be four of us tugging on this mirror. And finally, the mirror pulls out and drops down because it was on some sort of a hinge up top. And there was a bar holding it on the bottom. Well, come to find out, Fitzgerald was sitting on that bar of wood holding this mirror up against the wall. And when the mirror dropped down, there was an area up top that was open. And out of that, Fitzgerald says, "Mr. Prosecutor, I'd like to come out." And everybody just, our jaws dropped like, oh, damn, you know? So then we swing it open and it opens up. Here's Fitzgerald. He's in his underwear. He comes out. I look in there. It's a grow room. There's all marijuana. There's lights. And right where he's sitting is a loaded rifle, which was kind of unnerving because, you know, when you're on the other side of that, yanking on the mirror, and there's a guy inside with a rifle, you know, it's a little upsetting. I'm glad it was after the fact that I find this out.
Yeah.
So that was it. That was pretty much it. We continued to do the search, and we kept searching and searching, and it seemed like the day went on forever. We kept finding different things. Just when we thought, hey, you know, we probably got everything, one of the Asbury officers hits a panel in a closet, and out drops a MAC-10 machine gun. It was like, yeah, geez, you know, here we are. We're far from done. We're just finding this now. So we had to get some fresh troops to come and start the search all over again and keep on searching. And it was tiring. We had been up for well over 36 hours or so doing this. And I walked into Biegenwald's living room. I took a stroll through the whole place. I went downstairs and, you know, it was dark in this one basement. I went looking around, like face to face with this aquarium, and there was this snake in there, this puff adder, they call it. It's supposed to be a deadly snake. Jump back. Whoa, that was frightening. Back upstairs I go, and by the time we get to the living room, here's the prosecutor, Al Lear. He's sitting on the couch, and he's out. he nodded off and went to sleep. I sit down next to him. I'm tired too. While I'm sitting there, I look over at him. There's a cockroach crawl on his shoulder. I flick it off, and when I flicked it off, it woke him up. He looks at me and he goes, "Ken," he goes, "this guy's a really good reason to have a death penalty." It kind of shook me because I had numerous conversations with Al Lear. He used to, every weekend just about, I would run into him at the 7-Eleven in my town on Monmouth Road. He loved to play Pac-Man. He was in the back room playing Pac-Man all the time. So we would sit and talk, and I'd watch him play Pac-Man, and we talk about the death penalty. He was not a proponent of the death penalty until maybe that day. I'm not sure if it stayed with him, but that day he was all for the death penalty, you know, with what you saw.
That's interesting. And you know what, let me ask you this. There was a plea bargain offer by Biegenwald's attorney for a large number of bodies, and that number of bodies differs from, you know, all these years later, from what the Lou Diamond, the defense attorney, remembers, and what Jimmy Fagan, the prosecutor, remembers. So anywhere between 25 and 75 bodies was the offer, and it was turned down. What are your thoughts on that, on why it was turned down? And I know it was the offer strikes to what you were just saying is the plea was, we'll give you these bodies, life in prison without parole, but no death penalty. And Al there seemed pretty adamant on the death penalty for this case.
Yeah, the numbers that I recall were somewhere around in the upper 20s as far as the amount of bodies that may be involved. And as far as the plea goes, that's a tough call, really a tough call, because I know if it were one of my loved ones that he had murdered, I'd want to see him get the death penalty. I mean, that's just the way I feel about it. And then I see the other side too. So many cases that could be resolved, so many families that could get some peace from knowing what happened. So, I stay in the middle of the road of that. I see both sides. I appreciate both sides. So it's a tough call.
Yeah, no, I agree on that. It's a tough call. Did you have any interactions with Richard Biegenwald other than your initial when you guys placed him under arrest?
No, that was pretty much it for me. I did look in on some of the interviews right afterwards. One thing I just have on my mind about Biegenwald was this was a guy who he showed no remorse. He had no conscience. The only time I think I saw remorse on his face was he was remorseful about the fact that he got caught. That probably would have been it. And I only wish that the families could have seen the look on his face when he got handcuffed in the driveway, because it was like he had a note on his forehead that said, "I'm screwed." And that was the only time I really saw emotion on him. That was the only time.
Going back to the attorney, describes him as, not having any feelings whatsoever between right and wrong. It was no life and death. It was just that this is how it is, and which is interesting when you think about the fact that Biegenwald did not want the death penalty. He wanted to do life in prison. So there was a sense of fear there, had to be, for him to be adamant about the fact that he was willing to give up these bodies to avoid the death penalty.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm glad that you had mentioned the when you were crawling through the field, because I remember that story, and I remember you saying, describing it, and when you saw the fence and the light, you're about ready to, engage a man who was known to have been in at least one, or actually two shootings at that time that you knew about.
Yeah, it was an eerie feeling, to say the least. Yeah.
Yeah, and waiting from 12 at night to 3 in the morning. Not only do you have the anxiety and the anticipation of what's about to unfold, you're also dealing with fatigue and being tired, and your body's natural desire to during those hours to go to sleep.
Yeah. Yep. And we had, like I said, we had been awake all for quite a while.
There doesn't seem to be, a whole lot out there on besides my book on Richard Biegenwald.
Yeah, as interesting as the whole case is, I was always surprised that nobody jumped on this a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's an interesting case and involved a lot of people, and I'm just surprised that there hasn't been more about it.
Yeah, me as well. And then looking at the possibility, and a very real possibility, of other bodies being out there. There's probably more research to be done on Richard Biegenwald, and then a good. I was speaking with Mike Dowling on this about DNA analysis, and what was done, and still, even though there's a national database on there, you wonder what is missing and what cases that kind of have his MO, if you will. Small caliber 22, shot to the head, fingerprints on it, if you will, that are similar, that might be worthy of digging into and trying to provide that connection between Biegenwald and that victim.
It's just with all the possible bodies that may be out there, it makes you wonder. He was apparently he was pretty good at hiding bodies, and I'm still surprised that more haven't turned up. You haven't heard different stories about, hey, they found a buried body somewhere. I just haven't heard anything like that. But with him, I would have expected to hear something. Because he, like I said, other than Anna Marie Luskowitz, who he apparently couldn't bury. He tried, but he couldn't bury. He had to leave her on the ground. Everybody else he buried. So there's bodies out there somewhere, but more than likely they're in the earth.